Welcome back, everyone, to day 5 at the PUBG Mobile Club Open UK Spring Split 2021. Sponsored, of course, by Xiaomi Innovation for Everyone. And my name's Hernand Wolf, and here to add in the spice to our games alongside me is the amazing, the wonderful Professor Tarzan. How are you doing today, man?
Oh my god, I'm so hyped for today. I know it sounds like I say it every day, but I've got a reason for it just because of the teams that we've got for tonight and where they are at on our leaderboards. And we will go into that later. But you know what? Such a good day. Such a good day to cast.
Yeah, of course, we have groups B and D taking the stage, and as you can see here on your screens, guys, these are the points up for grab every single game. You've got up in first position, 15 chicken dinner winner points for first position, 0 points so down on the other spectrum for 13th to 16th place, and of course that all-important 1 point per kill, which is going to be detrimental going into these final 4 games for all 4 of these groups of teams.
And that is just one thing that we mention again and again, right? So, like the new point system, how it can change the dynamics. And we like to look at these ratio between the placement points and the kill points for these teams. And just look at that ranking there. Like an Austria MVP, although they didn't have the best game or the best day yesterday, they are still on top of that table. And that leads me to why I'm so hyped for tonight, Highland Wolf. Look at those top 8 teams. We've got 7 of them playing tonight. Other than V12, all of them will be playing the last 4 games tonight. And that just adds so much hype for tonight's games, man.
And of course, in terms of these top teams, we have Lack Nostra Power, Lack Nostra MVP here up in 95 points in the top position, as you mentioned, but also the most aggressive team here with 54 kill points. And yes, V12, although they're not playing, and they are the most consistent still in terms of placement points, in terms of games, going for the longest time versus any other team. I think that does testament to you how close the leaderboard is, and particularly note the fact that even second down to all the way 10th position, there is only 8 points here separating those teams. And going down, I think, even to some teams like Rescue Gaijin, who had a better result, I think now the onus is on them to keep that momentum going, right?
And yeah, for sure. And with those type of top of the table clash, it just adds so much, hype to it, right? And in particular, Serix Esports, a name that we didn't really hear so much about before this PMCO UK. They are there at the 4th position. But of course, like you mentioned, we have such a narrowed point separation in the top of the table. Just looking down at the mid and lower parts of this table, a lot of teams still need to show up. I mean, for a team like for Iraq, right, if they can play like they've played yesterday, they can join that party at that top bracket. And they told us, right, they are really stressed right now. And we just tell them, just repeat what you've done yesterday and you may have a fair chance.
And as well, we talk, of course, about teams like Sons of Odin in 19th position there. It was 61 points, only 3 points away from making it into the top 16 for now. But that will obviously change with the final 4 games tonight. And we're talking to them as well. And I think Insania obviously was looking with high hopes towards their second day of play. But unfortunately, with miscommunication, they said lost fights. They started playing too aggressive and they lost out on many, many opportunities, unlike their first day of play. But I have some news here, and it will actually be potentially Insania, the in-game leader here, Tarzan, going to be subbed out for their 5th player on their roster. And that is how nervous Sons of Odin are potentially going into tonight's games.
I think like these abrupt changes may not do a team good, but you know what? They are ready. They call on and put that responsibility onto that second IGL to lead, in particular, the Erangel games, and that may have some good effects. But I just am waiting for them to prove that. I mean, as usual, we have those 4 maps, and we talked about how crazy it is to make those changes on Erangel only. It sounds like it's Erangel only, but it is half of our games tonight, and these are the last 4 games for these teams that are playing tonight. The last 4 that will determine whether they make it to that top 16, therefore qualifying for that final. So of course, Erangel, Sanhok, Miramar, Erangel will be that order. And so, I mean, when it comes to points, right, we've been following the trends, doing our quick maths, etc. And it's been official. If you are any of these teams playing tonight, if you don't make it to the top 16 by the end of it, your run for PMCO UK, this spring split, is officially over. It's officially over. And even if you make it there, you have to pray for other teams to screw up. You almost need to think that you want the top of the leaderboard to keep being that point sponge and leaving the teams below you to continue in their suffer. And that's just how it goes. And I actually feel a little bit nervous for them. But of course, I will be alongside Highland Wolf cheering all of these teams on. And it's getting real, man. It's getting so real.
Right back, Professor Tarzan. But of course, even as you mentioned, the teams right in the bottom of the leaderboard today, they are going to be so nervous. I think even a 16, 15, 14th place position at the end of the day is just not going to be good enough. You need to make sure you're hitting that left side of the first half leaderboard, 1 to 8th position. That's where these teams are going to be aiming for. And as you saw, it's already so congested from the first all the way down to the 10th as it is. And I think talking about the top of that leaderboard, right, we have Lacknostra MVP, who didn't have that standout game, despite the fact that on paper, they look still very strong as that first team. And they said, Danny, their team leader there, they were saying it was a disappointing day for us. And we took the foot off the gas. They lacked focus and made a couple simple mistakes. But crucially, what they said the mistakes weren't mistakes in terms of doing something wrong, but it was in terms of just the way they were playing themselves. They weren't paying enough attention to the way that they were going about, especially the start of the game. So you saw even a last place position for them in that second match. So I think going on to today, they're just going to play the natural game, enjoy the matches, and have a little bit less pressure than some of these teams like Sons of Odin going on to the Green Rolling Hills or Erangel.
And this is esports, right? Developing into a really high end type of a sport, and then all these people, all these players should be considered esports athletes. And when you're an athlete, there are so many things on the table that you have to consider: your sleep, your nutrition, your sports psychology. And I really like what Danny said there. They need to, not just for a team, but for every single player, need to know when they perform the best. Sometimes people perform the best when they're a little bit angry. Some people need to stay relaxed. And there are other people that have got other ways, right? Music, you name it, a particular food or drink. I've heard different strategies. And this is the time to maybe not explore too much, but use what you know best, right? You've got a good track record that I used to do this and it works. And there's no more time for you to test too much around. So, but it may work if for the teams that are still trying things out, and I do wish you all the best.
Yeah, of course, even Gaijin looking much stronger, as we mentioned earlier, going from 17th position from their first day of games. One of these teams that now look really strong in terms of position in 7th place inside those crowded teams on top. And even the likes of Rescue, who we praised going into the first day as one of the most scary teams and one of the most experienced teams into this competition for the UK scene. And I think for them, they've finally been able to show up right in yesterday's games, but first day was shaky. Do you think that looking into today's games, they can be a little more complacent, or do you think they still need to keep on high alert?
There's no place for complacency, Highland Wolf. It has never been a term that's allowed in my life, in my vocabulary, not in my dictionary, never. Okay, so they just need to play at their best. There's no reason for anyone to disrespect each other. And I think if there is a God right now, more than just the cost of PUBG, the justice should be served and the reward should go to the most hardworking and prepared. And that is just the truth. And sometimes it's not always fair. And sometimes it seems like the luck's not on your side. but it's about how you position and adjust your mind according to the situation that make you the victors. And same like for like an Austria MVP, they've got one great day one, right? And what's the response from that? And how do we follow up from that? Those are the things that I want to see more than just what seems to be like good points on paper, right? It's work ethic, guys. It's attitude and it's professionalism.
Yeah, right. We'd mentioned talking to us from Rescue, and he was saying, like, if I'm being perfectly honest, we can take one of those top three spots for the UK finals and qualify for PMPL. And as you say, now is the time to really ramp it up and prove to us that they are what they say they are here at Tarzan going into their final four games, because just as easily as teams are now on top and teams need to make it to the top, those teams right at the tippity top of the leaderboard can come all the way down if they don't have good games. Because expect, as you say, that 100-point mark to be reached for some of these top 16 teams, if not the majority.
Yes, and speaking of that, right, how they're going to perform is really hard to predict, because for the second day of gameplay for all these teams, we called it the day of the upset or day of the bounce back for some of these teams. So that means no teams have been consistently performing well. So there's no more time to waste, guys. And we are also not going to wait any longer. We are going to head into that game one for this last day of play for these teams as we go on to Erangel. Those green hills are amazing. And we are going to have that playing path going from that top left of that mini map, cruising through that top part, very northern playing path, if I do say so myself. I would think it's going from that northwestern side to Pubg. Right? I mean, I just keep playing this game, Highland Wolf. Hopefully, I'm correct. Just about right. Just about right.
You're much better than me in terms of the playing path. As you do say, though, it is going to be a playing path. It goes over Pubg. And one of these teams that just love to drop over in Pubg, we've seen it so many other times, Lack Nostra MVP. And now comes the question, with more teams here as well going to be dropping over on that eastern side, by how this playing path goes, perhaps they could now be sandwiched by not just the likes of TSC Legends we saw yesterday, but by multiple teams potentially now.
For sure. And I think there's a very interesting point here. With regard to the playing path that we got yesterday, that is more hugging towards the eastern side, a team like Gaijin Seraphim that performed well, they actually didn't have an easy phase one because they favored North Georgia Post so much that it took them a lot of time to first get there and come back in. And teams sometimes have a very different play style when they're given different playing path with regard to their drop location, right? So now that they're given a position in there, they can study the map a little bit more and think how they adapt to that. But meanwhile, look at that Georgia Post area. It's just so many teams in there. We have the likes of TES team alongside Sons of Odin, Rescue, Seraphim, all in there. And we'll have that phase one circle more towards the southern side. So that southern half of that circle right now is completely empty.
And you talk about that southern half being empty, that means that there is going to be a lot of scope for these teams to move around there and make their way into proper side of the zone. You see in the Georgia Pole area, it was pretty good. You saw teams like Gaijin dropping over in that north side of the compound. And it's going to be interesting to see how these teams fight up, particularly against Sons of Odin, because Sons of Odin, as we talked about, they are in 19th position. They need to have 4 strong games to really solidify their spot going into the PMCO UK Finals. And with already 1,000 meters from zone, with multiple teams around them potentially going to be sandwiched, if they start to close in on top of them, that's not a great spot for them to be starting on.
It comes down to the game plan, right, Highland Wolf? I mean, they talked about how they tried to play a more aggressive style and not working out, and they are trying to adjust once again. But it's good to see on Insania on that list there. He will be in this, maybe not leading, so yet to see what they can pull out of their arsenal. And Risk Esports, another team that are tapping in and out of those top spots, and they're currently at, let me have a quick look, at 25th place. Right, so if they want to make it to those finals, they really, really, really need to have the best day they can do.
And I think it is on many of these teams, right, having a strong showing. As we talked about, even for Iraq, they're in 21st position with 50 points. They also need to have a strong showing, particularly in this first game. But one team we talked about needing to not be so complacent and keep up their guard and still stay strong is Rescue here, as we see them on that south end of Georgia Pub themselves, going to potentially be the ones to gatekeep potentially a few of these teams up from the north side, crossing that bridge over towards them. And that will be crucial for those early kills to really boost Rescue up. And I also am interested to see where the rest of these teams are on the opposite end, though, of course, right? Many of these teams did have time to wait towards the eastern side of the plane path drop over there. So I think we do have to expect that not only is there congestion on this northwestern side, but also on this eastern side as well.
Yeah, and those entry points through those different drop locations can be really tricky. So, I mean, we've played 4 days already, guys. This is the last 4 games for all these teams out of 12 games, and this is time to show what you know about your enemy teams, rotate accordingly, etc. And that also makes me think, right, like, or wonder what Sons of Odin are doing, because they know a team is dropping in North Georgia Pool, and that team is Gaijin Seraphim, who has been performing quite well. And so, I mean, I can talk to them after this game and see what their game plan is. Meanwhile, KI1, like Lucky Nostra MVP, had a brilliant day one. And like Lucky Nostra MVP, had a bit of a disappointing game day 2, second day of play. And so they really need to show it once again. Another team that seems quite mysterious. We don't get a lot of information of them when we try to do some of these interviews. So I believe they just need to show it through their gameplay.
Yeah, KI1 here. I think they have been a little bit quiet, but they obviously say they're not afraid of any teams. And they do think, although some teams have good players, they have the strength, they have the adaptability to be able to still take that number 1 spot all the way until the tournament finishes, they said. And I think that is a confidence, but I think in a mindset that these teams should be going in with, even if they don't feel like they are the best team, if they believe, if they have that belief, that is half it right already. To make sure that you have that belief and you're not going to be fighting when it really comes down to the wire.
And I mean, these mentalities are so hard to grasp sometimes. You need to be confident, but not arrogant or disrespectful. You need to be, like, humble and reflective, to look at your own mistakes, but not self-defeating. And meanwhile, we have the side of Cyrex, ESP, a team that we are yet to see some flashy plays, I should say, and they are holding that squad house there, the south of Compound, to their northeastern side of farm, I should say, and getting a bit of a trade knock onto TSC Legends, a team that bounced back hard and big time from the second day.
Yeah, TSC Legends here, not gatekeeping for once, Lucky Nostra MVP, but they are now gatekeeping the side, as you mentioned, of Cyrax ESP, and I think this is now them going to really be rotating out, getting a better position in terms of the zone in phase number 1, because as you see on that timer up in your top right screen, that timer is now closing in, and they do find one to start it off. That will be great, because Hazard will be their first kill, and that will just immediately allow them so much more opportunity, so much more freedom to get inside that zone for better position that we just talked about.
It's really, okay, you know what? It's both good and bad what Cyrex ESP did there. They know that at that compound, it's very easy to get pushed, or like from TSC Legends position. So they want to rotate before they TSC got the spot all controlled, right? So they went for that rotation, of course, like paid the price of 1, but also very leaving me very confused. If you know there's another position that is so strong that makes you retreat straight away, why didn't you scout for it and just claim it for yourself? They were in the area earlier. So these are the things that we'll be looking out for, guys, and they just need to see how they play it. Venom, alongside his remaining 2 teammates, will need to go a little bit further in this map, and that circle is starting to close. Looking forward to see how they play this. A lot of these teams, different rotational styles, different favorite spots, and Seraphim is on the go.
You see Seraphim ready, just Gaijin here, Seraphim, to take on their position through hospital, past rescue, and now have their own potential to gatekeep all of these teams on that Georgia Pool area as they make their way around towards that zone. But you see Prada doing just as we talked about on that blue zone, looking to try finish off one. Play zone will catch out Blood, and Prada, Costi with Prada will be able now to catch one member. And now that they have revealed their position, they need to be aware of the fact they are in the blue zone. You see them picking back up in the buggy and making their rotation back around. Rescue not having a great time because they're walking into the hands of Risk. As you can see, that zone move away from all of them though and towards the edge of the east side. And now it all is about that center around that airdrop icon, as you can see, with Lacanostra MVP. A little bit scary here. 2-1-1 split coming out from them.
Seems like it can be a farm finish, and we all know farm, the split amounts of compounds or actually slowly getting claimed by the teams in there right now. And obviously those teams on that northwestern side are a little bit slower on that rotation, and they still need to get that spot. But look at Rescue here. Suffering continuously, really. They've got that death from Gaijin, and now Risk is also in here. A team that dropped in North Georgia Pool also in here to start some rotations. And the Rescue trying to get a bit of a high ground hyper, trying to cover from a little bit more of a better angle.
I think now you see Rescue, they have the advantage onto the side of Risk, and they look to almost take one, but Alani will open fire as well to stop that flush from coming onto Trojan, but Alan might not be so lucky. They will fall down, and Rescue will find one. Make it now at second as Trojan will be finished off, and Risk split around that Everest area, now struggling with only the Tevativ and also Alani. Behind them, you see Coyote moving towards Tick, looking to try find that revive, potentially gets caught out inside the smoke as well, but the excellent job from Hyper, keeping them off for now.
Hyper is just carrying this fight right now, knowing that he can change the situation, turn the tables if he get a spot like this, with his position as well, allowing Coyote to go for that revive because the cover fire is there and he's not even done yet. So that is Rescue actually showing up still after losing that one player to Gaijin Seraphim, and they will get that retreat and they will maybe even out-rotate the side of Risk.
Yeah, smart decision there not to go for the flush of the entire team. Just allow them to really struggle in terms of their position to get back on and into the game here for the first match. And that the damage has already been done, right, to Risk. Now they're just going to really struggle, not only for getting all of the remaining players inside, as you see Trojan and Alan both fall to the play zone, but also being able to now, with their remaining two, have a strong position in the future of these zones. KI1, no, Danoka looking to maybe catch out all the members of Gaijin Seraphim, but it's going to be risky. 4 versus 1, so brutally difficult.
And Gaijin did such an amazing work there. Just somehow find their way. They know the map so well. They found a way to scout it properly, not getting punished at all. And you can also arguably say, right, that was a missed opportunity by KI1. If they got that claim of Potato Hill for almost 5 minutes now, they wish to have capitalized on that, but that was not the case.
KI1 there, just unable to capitalize on their strong position from Potato Hill, as you say, but a strong position nevertheless as well coming out for Gaijin on this western side. They are preparing to move closer towards the center if need be as well. As you can see, that zone is kind to them though. It has moved close towards them, and now you see Lacanostra MVP though on the other side of that bridge alongside, as usual, their friends here, TSC Legends, back for that duo fight.
And that is going to be quite interesting. Both of these teams need those points. Of course, they've been performing well, but now that they are not quite in the center, I know, of course, there is always a way to play edge, right? So a lot of these teams know how to play it, but with this particular landscape of farm, it is just so tricky. You need to have the best scouting mechanics, how to overlook with some bait, some crash formation, you name it. They need to use it all for this game one right here. And you know what also interests me, Highland Wolf, is the fact that Sons of Odin decided to tank 2 phases of blue.
Yeah, Sons of Odin still not inside the zone, still going to struggle now through phase 3. And you talk about tanking 2 phases of blue, the amount of health kits and healing that we will have had to burn already, not even inside the zone in a position yet, potentially still have to go for a fight, is just not ideal at all. And perhaps still they are struggling to really recuperate from their mistakes from second day of play. But a team here that is on that north side of the zone is Vendetta, also making their assault over the hill for a better position alongside many teams you can see here. So a TES team getting ready inside their compound to be sieged potentially by both Gaijin Seraphim and also TSC Legends.
And Seraphim and TSC Legends both are using that 1-3 split right now, I believe, on the experience and the reasons of why they've done it, but there might be a bit of a clash, and that is Rescue coming in to breach this compound, held down by TSC Legends.
They've already lost one member though. Coyote's been smacked down and now they enter the building. Can he find a 1-for-1 trade? Bilal going solo but finds now the second. It will be the third member of Rescue to take that knock, but only Tick is alive and he has to pull off the mega 1v2. Finds 1 kill. Will he be able to find the other? Yes, he will for now. A sliver of health, but now comes into Cavalry. There's still one more player of TSC alive, and you see Bujo making the attempt to try save his entire team, but the revives are coming through for now. Actually, hold that thought because Tick hasn't revived anyone, trying to maybe scout out if Bujo is coming in. Bujo finds Hyper. That will be 1 slain. Is Bujo already half health coming in the building? Did Tick heal? Yes, he did. He's making that revive under the second player 2 versus 1 situation. Can Tick find the first? Yes, he will. Confirms at least 1 kill before Rescue potentially go down, but now it's a 2 versus 1 situation. Bujo is inside, making the revive as well on K2. Chiquita also went upstairs and will potentially be revived also. Rescue, but not making the aggressive moves that they need to. Now comes a third member for TSC Legends to be revived. Just Rescue, just holding on. Maybe grenading up into the stairs to Bujo. Don't find any. Bujo throws one down again. But now we talk about here, this fight still going on. The third member of TSC Legends being revived.
Oh my god, that was almost a 1v4 play. But that was, split-second decisions there, and still going to be a 2v3. Tick almost just clutched it there. There's still a chance, though, but bear in mind they don't have that position in the circle. Some of those cars are still healthy, but the other buggy losing quite some tires, which was such a huge factor when it comes to mobility of rotation. They've got another 5 seconds before the blue zone closes. Lucky for them, it's only 100 meters from the play zone.
The TSC Legends here, they are gate kept by the members of Rescue. They hold the front door, they hold the buggies. Bujo's on that balcony looking to try find one in the angle. You see the smoke's also now going to come out for Rescue. I think they won an out way here against the side of TSC Legends, looking to try smoke up and actually Molotov the stairs, denying them the ability just to walk down. Bujo taking down. Bujo will barely keep himself alive for now, but it will not be so lucky for Chiquita as they will fall down. Tick also falling down very low, but keeps himself alive as K2 now enters into the fray. Finds one potentially over the door. Not quite yet. Will get popped beneath the Jeep. And Rescue, they're bringing it to Bujo now potentially as he just smashes through the front door, smashed into oblivion by the Bullets of Rescue, and they take the fight.
Tick, what the hell, man? He's done 1v3 twice in this game. And that is just so important when it comes to the momentum of Rescue. And TSC just falls short. The 1-3 compound defense, that formation just got surgically removed and obliterated by Tick himself. The trio came out strong, and they will still have 2 going into the late game. 6 kill points already. But let's not forget Nostra MVP, another strong team. And Nori knocked, Senso knocked as well. And with the wraparound, it's Fool's Charlie trying to hunt down the remainder of that team and will continue to chase down for a little bit, but seems like the better plan is to come back confirming those skills. Fools holding the southeastern edge strong.
You see the side of Fool Esports taking it to the #1 team on this leaderboard right now as Danny just walks into the hands of Cyrex ESP, and that might just be potentially an entire squad of Lacanostra MVP wiped out of this game in 14th position. You see also now TST making their assault not inside the compound anymore, but now towards the front lines of Gaijin in front of course, still for Iraq and also KI1 on that hill above.
And Sons of Odin as well, starting to join in on that kill feed. With that late rotation, they actually lost Sambra, if I remember correctly, but they are still in this zone, man, just toying with these players, first going to the northern side, hard shift, and now hard shifting back to the southern side. But this will be some great news for a team like Seraphim, who has been suffering a little bit, losing some players when they're trying to hold down that spot. And this will be a bit of an interesting one coming into the later phases. Cyrix, haven't seen them quite enough. They've got a pretty decent spot, I would say, around that plateau, along that road there, but an abundance of teams still needing to scout in and find a spot in this circle.
You see, though, one of the strongest positions being held by Smokers, though. There's still full squad alive inside the center of that zone, going to be crucially holding on for as long as they possibly can against the many players still alive. 36 to be exact, still in this phase 5 now. It will be the Noko walking up, though, into the hands of Risk. Just rolls over them, now comes back down. Risk took it too late. In KI1, they maybe just walked into the nest of the snakes here as Risk will now trade 1 for 1. They've lost one member down, make it 2 as Soka now walking on the other end. Left the side of Hackshot now just to defend with the blue zone coming in to try nom up the remaining members of KI1. You see, though, Hisoka, the crucial positioning being away, looking now for a better position inside the zone. But Gaijin, they're just straight in front of them. More snakes straight ahead.
Oh, KI1 didn't make it through. That position's so hard to hold. At least they got one revive, but they still need to scout in. The entry point has not been established, and they may just send it in trying to challenge. That will be Seraphim losing one Prada, the last one standing for them. The team needs to hold strong, but that will be such good news for KI1. They get some control, they've got some covers, and a little bit of ridgeline for them to play.
They're cutting the heads off these serpents here, Tarzan, as they just make their way into zone. They also now smash down Insania. The IGL as Sons of Odin is gone and out of this first match. Vendetta down further south as well. Lose one to Waji as Kuba struggling. Now make it a double as they've lost 2 inside the smoke, with Cyrax ESP still coming in from behind.
Cyrex ESP has been popping off on that kill feed tonight, and that is something that we like to see. It's now or never for this team. They are at 59 points on that board. If they can have a 40-ish point game, they are joining that top pack. And meanwhile, Vendetta losing so many. Devil, the last one's laying down, I should say. Last one, snaking, is the name of the game, and he's just trying to make something work with the DP28. And with that distance that they have to travel as well, Devil will go down as they took that 9th place.
You see Cyrex ESP, though, they are so far away from now this zone, as it has shifted in favor of Smokers to control that northeastern side. For Iraq will lose one to the side of TES team, as they also make their way into zone. Fools, though, up front against Cyrix. And now you see the 2-1 split coming out from Fools. It will be Hunt in front, will almost fall down. Waji is now being revived, but Toxie's falling down as well. Charlie's
Lucy
out of the game as well for now, as Lucy's coming up to try clean up the roundhouse quadra. As Lucy, can they make the triple? Waji's the only one alive, but their health deficit is real. Yes, they will find it. And Lucy comes up clutch to 1 versus 4. And Ash, meanwhile, reviving Hunt. They will make a speedy entrance into phase number 6.
Oh my god, I think that's the biggest clutch so far in PMCO United Kingdom, delivered to you by Lucy from Sirix Esports. Probably one of the biggest reasons why they're holding the 4th position right now. And that is just the start. They are making further. They made it to top 5. And look at these other teams in the lobby. Smokers, of course, got some strong games in day 1. KI1 got one strong day, and second day just no good. And now Sirix might be just the most consistent team here, ready to dethrone so many of these other teams.
You see Sirix still 3 players alive, now facing up their second squad of TES team. They will be losing one. As you saw Rainbow go down, but a grenade hits onto Lucy. Their clutch player is out already. And Hunt now going through the shack, won't find the angle though into the window as Hammer keeps himself alive for now. Such a small slit to get through that window and blow him up into oblivion. Hammer, though, is aware of Ash on that flank side. Multiple angles that Sirix are now coming from as Hunt's cooking up another grenade, looking to try go inside.
I mean, with such a predictable position as well, Hammer should just get out of here as soon as possible. If not, he is just a piece of ham and no Hammer. And Hammer went out. That brings Sirix to top 4 and top 3 as they continue to clutch. The trio making it work. Don't underestimate the power of the synergy. Sirix is in here to win this, baby.
They are all now coming in with KI1 on the north side, bringing it to the hands of Smokers. Inside their own smoke, they are falling like dominoes here. 3 down, 1 remaining, but they kept themselves alive. But now, Sirix too aggressive, though. Ash gets popped. It's KI1 aren't out of this game yet. They say we will look to try come back onto the Erangel. Take that number 1 spot as we promised. As Lucy now falls. Disaster for Sirix. As KI1, still all 3 players remaining alive in this final zone. 6 kills as phase 7 hits our deck. And now you see Smokers making their way down on the hillside. Hisoka, potentially that versus 1 on Rex OP. Hisoka will fall down. And now Smokers, they want the chicken dinner too.
Sirix has the rich line. They've got a little bit of low ground with that dip. With that drop as well, they will get replenished armor and vest, and that is just so important. They can even third party this. The next circle will come in, and this is Smokers and KI1 trying to hold this down, and that is going to be damage done to both sides. Maybe this is the miracle run for Sirix in here. They need to make a move, though that circle is almost completely closed.
You see Smokers, though, still that 1 versus 2 for Rex OP. Has to try finish off the side of KI1. You see Tabby and Ace coming around the other side, but just both of them get knocked into pieces. As Hunt just hunts them all down like the deer they are crossing through the forest trees. And now it'll be Rex, the sole player alive. 5 kills on the board for Smokers. Can they steal this one away with Hunt coming in for the backside, doing the dirty work for Smokers as Ahsoka will fall down. Now the Noka out, only Hackshot remaining. Still 3 members of side of Sirix, though, alive in this game. You see Ash, Lucy holding up towards the front side. Ash making their way with the painkillers, though, up further forward.
Oh my god, I just can't breathe through this one. It's going to be a 3v2. And is Hackshot even trying to pick that up yet? I think Lucy knows this. They can send it in. They want every point they want. But that is just going to be that flush. Hackshot needs to pull out the 1v3. Show Lucy how to do it, baby. And this is just going to be so excited. Sirix may be the first team to break 100 points. And that will be the case.
You see, Sirix are looking for that 100-point mark. They found it, Tarzan, and they have executed it well with not just a chicken dinner, but also that juicy 13 double-digit kills to go alongside it.
Oh my god, it just... I feel like there are cells that haven't been activated in my body that just got all woken up through this game, Highland Wolf. And this is just, oh my god, I'm so hyped. The trio dominating tonight. And Lucy with that 1v4 is just bringing it through, man. But look at, it's good news for KI1 as well. After that misstep of a day two, they're coming back strong. Look at all those teams that we want to see them perform. Rescue, Ellen MVP, or down there, and that is Sirix taking that top spot now, changing the dynamics, changing the game right now. Oh my god, what can we say? One game sometimes. It always all it takes. One player, one play, one fight. You can twist your fate. And that's Sirix, Lucy, and his teammates showing us how to do that right there, right then.
You see Sirix showing up strong, also breaking that 100 mark, though is KI1 Esports. They will now pick up 106 points themselves. Still the most now consistent team in terms of, actually no, excuse me, the second most consistent team in terms of kills, because Lack and Austria do pick up 54, of course, in total, but the most important, the placement points, Sirix now taking that top spot for consistency in zones with 62 in total. You see further down, though, of course, Sons of Odin did manage to have the showing they needed to now bring themselves up into the top 16 and 15 position with 66, albeit still more work to be done, with Gaijin there as well falling in 8th position. But towards the bottom half of the leaderboard, though, Tarzan, you do see still many of these teams needing to show up, with TS team on the bubble with 18th. You see, of course, for Iraq, still only 1 point there from that game in 21st position. Need to really now come into shine.
And this is the time, like for Iraq to really make it work. I mean, I don't think they picked up 80 points there, if my memory serves me correctly. 1 point is all they've got. And it also leads me to my point for a team like TES Esports. They basically are out. I shouldn't say that, but they need to have the craziest games in competitive PUBG Mobile to make it through. And I wonder what's going through their minds right now. What are they trying to do? What are the plans going to be coming into the last 3 games of their run in PMCO United Kingdom?
That is what it's going to be determining, of course, if some of these teams on, of course, the bottom of that leaderboard can actually have the final 3 games they need to really show up and take not only, as we mentioned, those 16, 15, 14 positions, but positions up towards that left side of the top half of the leaderboard. That first through 8th position that these teams are really looking to reach by the end of today. Because, of course, keep in mind, still 16 teams to go in tomorrow's matches.
You know what? That is just so much expectation, so much pressure, so much test and challenge. And this is a test of mentality, really. I don't think this... Okay, I'm going to make one last point, right, to all these points. I see it as a gift of free coaching, whatever you want to see it as. Focus on the things that are realistic for you to change and actually make it work. Don't do something all of a sudden in the matters of hour to try to hope to get something out of that. Know what you're best at and just make adjustments that you can actually handle. Some of these are just can be really punishing for your team. So much adjustment to listen to another voice, a complete different team formation and mechanic. So I really want your teams, right, all these teams, just be yourself. Know what you're good at and just show us the best that you can get. Don't try to be something else, okay? And that would be just my very genuine advice there from doing player development, coaching teams. Yeah. And you know what? Wish you all the best. We've got still got 3 games to go, and we'll see you on the other side.
Welcome back. One game down, 3 to go for day 5 of the PUBG Mobile Club Open UK Spring Split 2021. My name is, of course, Hand Wolf, joined, as always, for these 4 games tonight by Professor Tarzan. And I tell you something, Sirex is showing up, Tarzan.
So spicy, dude. I mean, that game was just hype. We see these clutches coming through. We saw Rescue, right? Rescue tick with that 1v3, not once, but twice. And then Lucy from Syrex Esports with the 1v4 and the win. My God, what can I say? And that leaderboard is just something that we haven't seen. And this is what I like to see. And those teams that are supposed to be on top need to withstand that pressure, man.
Yeah, you see, obviously, these teams right on top now. 112 points in first position. Sirex steal it away. Lack and Ostra in those 3 dropped to 4th position. And this is what we talked about, right? 7 of those 8 teams playing in the top from the original standings tonight. And Lack and Ostra just not able to hold up to that pressure in game number 1.
You know what? They got one of the biggest wins in PMCO United Kingdom, like an Austria MVP, in their first Sanhok game. Of course, they didn't make it quite through. Yesterday went out first in Painan, and they are now in here. I think they can bounce back from this. They need to remind themselves how they played in that day 1, and then they can maybe make it work. And this is us on Sanhok, the jungles, beautiful with that playing path through the middle, so we don't have to worry about where it's actually going from. And 2 is about these teams looking at those parachutes early, using the knowledge of the enemy's drop spot and making it, using them in their own favor.
Yeah, you see, obviously, it is going to be once again a very central playing path here. And I think what is interesting to see is Lack and Ostra, despite the fact that Lack and Ostra MVP, they lost, as you mentioned, the 16th position, Painan. They're going for that Painan again. This time, though, they don't have an enemy team to just crush them into oblivion. Instead, though, the zone were the one doing the crushing, because look at that nasty zone already. Over about, what should we do? Quick maths, about 34.36% water in that first phase, Tarzan?
Oh yes, you're about correct there. I am very proud of you, and that is the power of quick maths. You know what's the power as well in this circle, Highland Wolf? It's the power of the trifecta. With this circle going to that southwestern island, with the northwestern one still kind of in play, trifecta can be really strong to hold down against all the teams that need to come in through that main island. But you don't want 2 of these top teams at 3rd place, Smokers Esports, in boot camp, and Rescue take the clutch player from that game 1 alongside his squad of Rescue also in boot camp. So this may be the spicy start that we're waiting for, man.
It might just be. Finally, we get some boot camp action, albeit is that central compound. Hyper won't go down though just yet. The spray goes wide on Ace, his gun, and that will now be the restart of this fight here. As you see, Smokers and Rescue now positioning Rescue, going even more aggressive. That 3-1 split formation, Hyper in the back foot, and I think Rescue, they're really looking to take this one. As you see, Tabby try make the 1 versus 1 happen. Coyote won't go down just yet. Half health for the moment, but look at Rex, and you see Ace on the flank side.
Oh my God, they're so aggressive with the one. We can see the taste of blood in their mouth after that game on right here. They're both behind that cover with pretty limited escape strategy, if you do ask me. Hyper needs to once again play that overlook to stop them from being sprayed down, but Smokers have got other ideas. They will continue to rotate along that western side to get a better angle. Tabby now closest against the side of Rescue, and the rest of the team continuing to rotate towards the northern side.
Yeah, retreat is the name and the plan here for Smokers is to just completely back out of boot camp compound and out of the aggression of Rescue. In Rescue, it is such a different showing from them. We talked about in game number one, right? Smokers pushing teams out. This time, it's them on the receiving end.
Well, I mean, boot camp is just so hard to play unless you have the superb knowledge of it. Every offensive and defensive angles need to test out the different splits, and this is Tabby still maybe in a position to pick up some information, and the rest of the team can maybe position themselves accordingly. But meanwhile, let's not forget that this is somewhat on that northern edge of this phase one circle, and they need to have a game plan going into that. With that position from Rescue, Smokers may just need to go wide and avoid going in through a straight line.
In terms of also moving into zone here for these northeastern teams, right? That we will be able to get a look at coming into that phase 2 zone. It's going to be interesting to see how they make their run all the way from that northeast side into a really quite difficult zone here for game number 2, as we mentioned. That, what was it? I've already forgotten the number. 33.36% water. I'll make it up in my head. Maybe it's changed. We've rounded up. But they will now have the tricky position, as we mentioned, because that is only leaving 66% zone remaining.
Just call it 2/3, and that might be a bit less tricky for your tongue to say. But Cyrix here, right? They are on top of that leaderboard, being the only team dropping on the northwestern island and having that entry from that the northern parts of that new circle. They can maybe play this well because they play the edge style in game 1 and it worked out for them. But do bear in mind, this being Sanhok, edge playing is a completely different story. So I'm waiting to see how they pace their rotations and how they prioritize different spots given their drop location close to Cam Alpha.
And particularly here, CTS team going to be one of these squads that potentially Lacknostra MVP run up towards, depending, of course, on how they actually escape around that Pinang compound, of course, remember, because despite the fact that TS team are close towards the enemies here, they aren't so close that they can now just really see them and open up fire. I don't think either of them, of course, have noticed they're here, but who is showing up looks like to be Gaijin.
Gaijin really needs to show up once again. I mean, they had such a strong day too, but didn't quite get through earlier when they're trying to control a more center position. But this is such an interesting position to hold down, right, by TES. And because they get to maybe farm some of those teams who are still rotating through that main island, but they may still need to worry about crossing of that river. The other TES team, meanwhile, is TES team themselves, now in Kampong, quite far from the circle, but they can still get some entry point through that more southern side. Cam Charlie Bridge, maybe their play with Ali now scouting forward, the rest of them in one car. So we always talked about car rotations on Sanhok and how it can be really punishable, and I think Ali's position is vital to guard, to basically set the safety net for that rotation.
Yeah, of course, it is all about that being safe, about being aware of how you're rotating. And as we see even more teams rotating here now, getting into zone is full. They're making their rotation with the vehicles. Also, on the other form of rotation here in terms of boats here across the ocean, you see Starax ESP taking their jet ski and are rolling it through those final 300 meters into that very ocean phase 1 zone.
That's quite interesting to see, but you know what? Let's focus back onto Lucy as he continues his frag. Not against any other team, but another strong team in here. The other team that broke 100-point mark is KI1, and they will just lose one against Cyrix right here. Lucy, the first kill as well of this Sanhok game. Off to a good start for them.
First kill, first blood goes over to the team that took the chicken dinner from game number 1. Is now Ash just runs up the hill, so aggressive, but you have to be careful of the snakes on the Sanhok. It will be Moha knocking him out and punishing him for that very aggressive rotation outside, but has given his position away. Hunt not on target, though. We'll have to be careful alongside Lucy because the snake still is alive.
And with the car flank coming in as well from KI1, they're trying to pinch the side of Cyrix here. And this is quite volatile with all the teams trying to come in to this coastal line. Lucy may need to work his magic once again.
You see them slithering their way through. Danoka now going to try explode onto the head of Lucy, but won't find that angle in time. As it now will be Hunt still searching for Moha in the ground, but no sight of him now. Potential sight though of Hisoka making a rotation round. Danoka on the other hand though will be focusing on the grenade there. Had to reload though on the grenade as Hunt also had his own. Almost goes down through the door. The grenade's going to be popped once again. The angle going out onto Danoka, but it won't be quick enough. Meanwhile, Danoka gets knocked though in return. The 1-for-1 trade is Moha still on the snaky hill side, waiting to try couch out one of Cyrix.
I believe in Moha's position, though. With that ridgeline, he can rotate without getting seen, and he's now trying to come into straight. After getting that trade, he is now in to support both of those. Not members might just be bled out, but Dano could get picked up anyway, and that is just Lucy and Blaze needing to do more work, and that is officially a finish by Danoka with that nade is officially a 2v3.
The dissection of Cyrix for now, as they've lost both Ash and now Hunt. But meanwhile, Cyrex coming in for the third party, and Moha will just shut them down. One down for now, and they will just obliterate all of that aggression from the enemy squad coming in. But that has also bought time for Lucy now to exit out their house and look for a new angle to split onto Danoka. As you see Moha looking for more into the ocean side, but can't quite find any of them.
And that is either Moha having supreme, like senses to know that's the team pulling up. But I think the more possible explanation is the side of Cyrex ESP not knowing how close they should bring the boat in, and they've just given away that audio cue. Meanwhile, this fight will continue. Danoka needs to support as his circle get knocked and trying to revive through that doorway to finish that last kill. Lucy once again facing the 1v3, needing to frag out.
You see Danoka on the edge of that door, but Lucy, Blaze still down. If Lucy falls, that will be curtains for Cyrex in last position in his second game on the bubble. The pressure is real right now as you see the 2 versus 1 situation. Danoka will get popped through the door. Deliberate on the angle. Now you see Lucy take the second, and that will be Lucy coming up clutch once again. Cyrex, they keep themselves alive. Blaze will be revived, but it's not done yet. Surely the kill feeds come through for Cyrax, and they will be aware of how many potential players there'll be remaining on that coastline.
And the circle as well, Highland Wolf, it can go onto any of the islands. The trifecta is therefore very strong still. But just look at that fight there. I think KI1 just choked it. They know they've got the numbers advantage. They confirmed too. They got another one. They should be yelling last guy in that chat right there, and just all three go in and just do a proper 3v1. Instead, they went in one after the other, and just choking on that doorway and just giving the kills over to Lucy. So, of course, that's great work by Lucy there. But I would just consider that a bit of a screw-up by KI1.
Yeah, definitely. Danoka got too complacent there. And we talked about complacency coming off of their first match in second position, losing to the team. They lost again in game number 1 too. So it's going to be a double knockdown for Cyrex on top of KI1 as that zone closes once again, centralizing still on all 3 islands. And that is going to be bound to create a lot of confusion for these teams.
And this is a very interesting split for Seraphim, and I think I'm just waiting to see how they're going to tight up that split. Because with teams flowing in from all the angles, of course they are trying to get as much information as possible, right? Trying to control everywhere in this new circle. Look at the abundance of teams still on that main island. If they just come in like the tide, I don't think Lord and Prada can just hold it down by them, the lonesome. And so that is something that I'm looking out for. And meanwhile, so many teams still needing to find a spot in. And Smokers are just one of them. And very close to that other side of Trifecta, we have Rescue.
You have Rescue in the edge of that boot camp area, but still on that hillside is going to be Smokers, and they are looking now towards going into zone. They're looking to try see if there's any teams around them. A more careful approach, which of course can't be said for some other teams going in, like Sirex. They did lose ask for being over aggressive. And now as we turn our tables over towards Painan, we have, of course, the look of TAS team versus TS Esports. So the clash potentially from the same organization here coming out.
And when you just get into a position like Painan mid-game, you just need to use your game knowledge, although you may not drop there. But all those classic games that you've played, all those scrims, will factor in right now for them to pull out the best strategy. But I want to bring on to put the spotlight on top of Smokers there, right? Of course, they're not a center compared to the compound held by Rescue, but with that position, they can come round the other side and enter from Northwestern Island, so it's not too bad. But meanwhile, the clash between the TES team will happen, with the upper hand going to TES team.
You see the 1-for-2 trade, though, as of course they did lose one knock themselves. Meanwhile, Sons of Odin pulling up in the background, full inside the compound. Series of buildings there straight ahead, and it will be TS to strike onto another, as Diari will find one onto TS Esports. Smokers as well, joining into the fray from the other end. Might just be the entire flush of the team, if Ali can find it. Not quite yet. The box will protect him, but not for much longer, and they will fall down. Diari is out of the game, and now in shambles, TS Esports as they climbed up onto that bridge.
I mean, it's just so hard to rotate through that bridge because it's so predictable, and TES Esports has at least showed us how TS team. Team 8 right here, showing us how trigger discipline works. They are waiting for them to get into the open, and that would be one of the biggest reasons why TES Esports fall at 14th place.
Though that zone has been kind, at least for now, centralized along the ruins area. It might even have a ruins finish here, would be pretty exciting. But as you mentioned, all of these teams across that bridge on the eastern side, that's where the congestion is going to be, coming off of boot camp and on to that southwestern island. As TES team look to take another, but the grenade is going to go over and pass over the head of Tabby. Will miss for now. As Smokers now try to find a 1 versus 2. Tabby won't be able to find any flush just yet. They have lost Ace in the background, though. Keep in mind, as now they also will fall from Ali on the other side. Waji, with the help of Fools, will just obliterate through Smokers. That will be the first falling down. You see, Rex has been now revived with Ace there in terms of coming towards the front of that bridge. He talks, though, this bridge is so congested, and Ali holding on to the tree line alongside Rex.
And that is such a volatile position. All these teams may just get shot from across the other side, like across that river from the other side, because all these teams need to come in now. Ruins will be packed. That coastline will be packed as they stop themselves from going in the straight line. But Cyrex may prove me wrong. They're just running through that blue right now. And in front of them, we've got TSC and Lycanostra Power also in that, Lycanostra MVP also in the area.
You saw TES team back off because you see the kill feed going on to Smokers, and Cyrex ESP not looking to have the same happen to them, but potentially Sons of Odin will say otherwise, as Lycanostra MVP pick up their own onto Vendetta, also closing into the zone. You see just down towards the south end. Cyrex, so they're coming with the zone. The zone's looking to now chew them up. Sons of Odin have now the gatekeep. They have the tools in their arsenal to take a series of kills.
it's really hard to hold down positions like this. All the comms reflexes need to come through, and I really want to see these teams do well, especially Sons of Odin, a team that at least tried so hard to adjust their gameplay, their style, or even the roster, and that is them still in this game. So good news for them. You know what? I also want to bring my point on top of Gaijin Seraphim. They've been holding that trifecta. With that split, they get access to more center zone, and I will be looking out for their formations here. Still 4x1 split, extremely bold right there. But I mean, it kind of makes sense looking at that circle, right? With all the teams going onto that southern side, and we will have a southwestern shift coming in the next phase.
But a crucial point there is Ruins is still in play alongside that hillside. You see TSC Legends have now started to acquire. Sons of Odin are now going to gatekeep away Cyrax from this phase now 5 zone coming into play. You see many teams, though, like, of course, TS team, still to rotate across that Painan Bridge. As you mentioned, Prada will find also one on to rescue. Hyper going to fall down with the help of Adobo on the other side. Blood might be the second. Yes, he will be. And Rescue lose half already.
At what cost, though? They need to find a balance between choking out the South Rescue and rotating, and Prada goes down from the spray of Coyote as well as the blue damage. The blue zone is now closing. All these teams now need to rotate, and the damage control needs to be done. The last one standing for Rescue is Coyote.
It's phase 5. These teams need to beat the blue zone because they won't be able to run if they need to be able to heal by this point inside the game. And this is where Adobo really needs to put on his shoes, really make the run happen, because Lord will fall down as well if that blue zone catches him so low with Costi. The smoke being provided for some support, and also support is for Iraq, will be nailed into their coffin. Lucy also will be having the same fate happen to them. Meanwhile, Adobo has fallen down, though, and Sons of Odin will also have their own fight versus TS team, but TS team looking stronger.
And that rotation, that play, just cost Seraphim 3 players. They made it to top 7, so that's still a chance, but just look at that zone. The gods of Pubg is on the side of TSC Legends in this game.
TSC Legends, we talked about their control around this hillside in this compound that they have taken up. Lacknostra MVP, though, still alive. They will put on the pain train towards Cyrax and cart them off towards game number 3, potentially, with now them being trapped against the edge of this phase 6 zone, closing in on all of these players. Vendetta still alive in this game as well, going to try hold them off as Lacknostra MVP take the second team down, with TES team falling as well. 5 teams now remaining, but all the meanwhile we mentioned TSC, better ones in control.
Well, they need to hold down this position. They're so how should I say this? Predictable, right? The amounts of peak that they are going to allow themselves to do might be fatal, but what else is fatal is the shots line onto the Canostra MVP or pinch behind that rock. One nade can just end business for them right there.
Especially with Danny now to make the rotation in. They finally made the smoke, the safe array to get to that rock side, and they will be successful. Vendetta, not so much though, as TSC shut down their front line. Lacknostra MVP, meanwhile, making a rotation. Vendetta unable to, as we talked about. Bujo now finding the second. And Noise looking to try find a 1 versus 1 on Tawaji as well.
It's not easy to hold this down. Of course, they've got the circle against TSC Legends, but if we think about it this way, the compound defense is 4 versus 7, right? They have to keep an eye out on any side, and they may want to tighten it up. And if they try to support by crossing and entering the other buildings, other enemies will just shoot them down. So this is going to be so spicy as the circles start to close. This is phase 7, guys. Let's wait for this crazy action to happen.
You see TSC Legends putting the hurt now to Laka Nostra MVP. They lose one member completely as Alicio falls into the ground. Danny maybe becomes compost as well, as he is on that edge side. TSC Legends can gatekeep him away, but Fool Hidewaji will try to be that third party, as meanwhile two go down to Grenade Abujo, the dirty hand doing the dirty work right now, as it will be a Nori, another grenade smacked into their crawling arms, and now Danny, the only one alive, looking to make some explosions happen on his own end, but Fool Hater will shut him down, and now it will be up Vendetta, TSC Legends, and Fool.
Oh my god, TSC can join the top pack once again after this, down to those 3 teams, a 2 versus 4 versus 1. What the hell? Kuba is still healing, as let's not forget that is one of the ways to play Sanhok, so they made it to top 3. Vendetta trying to mess up their leaderboards right now.
Vendetta is doing enough work to mess up the leaderboard, just as you mentioned. They potentially even take second position if they've got enough medkits in their hands. As TSC Legends will now step outside, might even provide the upset onto Bilal. Kuba has set potentially in his arms onto Bilal's position. Meanwhile, Fool, Hader, and Waji holding on for as long as they can, but the shots are beginning to come out as they are being found.
And Hader that is one knock, maybe they can do it.
They come in, and now it will be Waji just to be shut down, and now you see only Kuba alive. TSC Legends, all 4 up, will secure the safest chicken dinner they have ever taken so far in the competition, with also 6 kills.
And with that as well, let's do some quick maths. 21 points in that, including what they've done before. 107 points in that game. KI1 choked, so maybe TSC just made it to top 2 after that one. And Vendetta, of course, the healing game actually made it work. I want to see more of that, right? My record is Highland Wolf, 45 first dates that I've seen some of these teams try to pull off, and you know what, I get to see more of that, but I need to wait for tomorrow, because this is the second last Sanhok game that we get in this group stage, and just look at the team still needing to show up. Rescue not having such a bright one in this, and we get to see that new leaderboards once again get shaken up by all these teams, and Syrinx increased their lead.
Syrinx will increase their lead, while we talked about Rescue having an unfortunate showing, will now be bumped down to 7th position. Meanwhile, Lacanostra MVP take themselves from 5th up again to 3rd. 4 teams now over that 100-point mark. To be fair, I think it is safe to say that these 4 teams are going to be in a running now for the side of top 16, especially with 2 games to go. Keep in mind here, Tarzan, that 100-point mark is what we're looking for. As you mentioned, still 70 points now, the threshold with Sons of Odin on that bubble. They talked about needing to get a strong showing and having a strong placement, and they need to come up with something else, because the way it's going right now, yes, they're in the 16th position, but come tomorrow's games, they're going to be knocked straight back out again.
Yeah, but the good news is for a team like Sons of Odin is that a lot of that top teams are in this group. So they can get all the points they want as long as they don't screw up Sons of Odin. And then Sons of Odin has a chance. But 2 more games, how scary does that feel? And look at that amount of point separation as well. From 66 to 62 points would be the point separation between 17th and 21st place. And I think we can kind of wrap it up already. TS Esports got 2 more games. You need to basically defy how math work to make it work, right? So once again, don't forget about the enjoyment of this game. Just take as much as you can from this opportunity of playing on this stage. And you know what? Whew, I don't know how to feel if I'm these teams. If the last game, sometimes you feel like, you know what? Everything, like that's done, right? And me throwing my pen, they're like, just 1 more game, but 2 games. We look at how these teams get 30 points per game. And if these 2 games are those games, right? And history will have been made. And Syrinx just show up, like, staying consistent, then just boost all the way up in today. and we can see
Yeah.
this type of things happening. And I believe in magic, and I wish they do. And if they do, I think it can happen. And that will be us. For now, as we wrap up our game 2, we are going to see you all in that game 3 on the desert of Miramar. Don't go away. Let's join us very soon.
Welcome once again, everyone. 2 games now finished, 2 more to go. 50% and a quick mass, as Tarzan would love to say. Here we are back, of course, the PUBG Mobile Club Open UK Spring Split 2021. And that, of course, sponsored by Xiaomi, creating innovation for everyone. I am Hein Wolf, of course, once again, and as I've already mentioned, Professor Tarzan joining me on the desk.
You know what? Once again, Highland Wolf is Cyrix showing up again with more than 10 points. That is more than the average that we thought these teams needed to go to the finals. And we're starting to see some point separation there. Of course, past that 100 point mark is TSC Legends at 107. And then with 1 point above them, like an Austrian MVP, another point above, like an Austrian MVP, we have KR1 Esports. So those separation, and when it comes to the later, like this last 2 games, and with them being somewhat safe to proceed to the next round, wonder how they are going to play this. Is it time to maybe test something as well and start exploring what they want to do in the finals? What are your thoughts, Highland Wolf?
For me, I think it is, yes, they are potentially through, right? Especially if you're talking about side of Cyrix, 125 points. But a concern for me right now is on teams like Vendetta UK. Yes, they got second position, but still in 20th overall on that leaderboard and only 64 points in total. So it's going to be about them. And also we mentioned for Iraq now slipping to 22nd. These teams not inside the top 16 to show up on Miramar and on these final 2 games.
And I mean, like for Vendetta, they're at 20th with 64 points. But if they can just get 10 points plus, then they will surpass TAS team, which is at 74 points and 12th position. Okay, and that is the mid-table right now, guys. And that is just very, very volatile. And with this playing path on Miramar on game 3, for some of these teams, this is the second last game for the run for this split, and this playing path going from that beloved oasis of myself through La Bandita towards that southeastern coast. It's considered a pretty nice playing path, slightly deviating towards that eastern side, making spots like El Pozo, La Trilera, Montenueva a little bit harder to reach, but you know what? These teams should come up with the strategies by now, and love to see some interesting drops. Risk Esports heading for that tall Ahumada, and there's not a lot of contests on the top right part of this map.
Yeah, but you do have to be careful of dropping so hard on one end of Miramar. It still is a mega desert map here in play, and it's going to be a mega run if they need to go towards the southern zone, which we've seen the last 2 days. Hopefully, of course, we will have a little bit of change and we'll have some diversity in our third game compared to low-end zones. Oh. But the zone comes back again, just like we saw in yesterday's games, where it will center around that Impala, La Bandita, and Junkyard trifecta.
Small island, give me the small island finish. Can you think, like, how would you predict that one? Impala being the center of the phase
center.
1 circle. Dead center. So this is a crazy one. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, it somewhat complements the later half of that playing path, but we can see those teams prioritizing over those compounds and positions more in the center of the map. And so it's going to be very interesting in terms of how they position or when they rotate, right? And meanwhile, we love Picardo. As always, we have TS Esports here alongside for Iraq, 2 of the teams that can still make it through only if they can make this work. But I mean, TS Esports a little bit low down on that leaderboard before Iraq had some good run from yesterday, right? And they can maybe still get quite some points in these last 2 games.
For Iraq in the casino, going to be looking for a royal flush over onto TES Esports and literally throw those grenades inside, but not going to hit anyone. In fact, just going to bounce off the forward stack and back onto the desert ground. But it is important for Iraq here to get these 4 kills or at least stay alive. If they fall down here, they are going to be in severe danger unless they have the most amazing Erangel game we have ever laid our eyes upon, Tarzan.
I mean, Rescue, meanwhile, Blood with drawing the first blood on top on KI1 as well. So KI1 may just be off for another rough start in tonight's second last game. And I mean, they're somewhat safe that maybe they're testing things, and we will give them the benefit of the doubt. But nonetheless, it's just going to change the dynamics of this with this Faith Zone Circle with basically half in the water as well. It can change things completely. And TSE Legends had such a good game, right? And they're here testing out their aggression again on one of the other top teams, Smokers Esports.
You see Smokers with their triangular formation, T formation albeit, but unfortunately not going to work out. As you see, one shot has just been one knockdown to the side of Smokers. TSC Legends, they're coming off of that chicken dinner. They're looking strong, going now into this third game already with potentially 1 kill on the board. And because of the fact that Smokers are so split, they can't actually revive one shot. And TSC Legends, if they go down, they're closer together. Even Bujo can come in for support, and they can revive if one goes down.
But I also am a little bit worried about these two teams. This is El Asaha on that northern edge, and with that circle, a lot of teams may avoid charging into the phase 1 circle through a straight rotation, and if they go for a wide one on that northern side, they can get these position on the mountains surrounding El Asaha. But you know what? Some spicy things are happening. Danny is not, and that's like a Nostra MVP having some early troubles.
Laka Nostra MVP struggling against the experienced rescue here as Nori Senso split apart the remaining 2 here for their squadron. But Rescue, they're dodging out the grenades. They're looking to try and make it happen onto the third member. You see Senso there in behind. And that will be now 3 remaining here for Laka Nostra MVP. Senso on the front with Alicio in there, coming in from behind, but won't be able to support Senso. All he can do is watch him go down. Alicio low health bars too. Inside the broken building of those houses and inside that shack, he will potentially fall to. You see them closing in. One goes forward. Alicia looking for the first. Won't find a free fire. Running out of bullets. Running out of time. He will fall down. And you see Nori. They are just booking it away to the zone.
Is this the second worst game for Laka Nostra MVP? I mean, they can rest upon the security from maybe on being at the third spot right now, but they want to prove more than this, and that is such a rough one to watch. But you know what? It's good news for Rescue. They're at 7th place at 90 points, so these early kill points are huge. Meanwhile, this wipe will come through. El Asa action goes over, and control go over to TSC Legends. Another squad wipe with no casualties.
You see TSC here, clean as can be, taking down one of these top teams, Smokers Esports, out of this third match already in last position. TS Esports here versus for Iraq, though, on this casino area. And you see Picardo still going to be one of these core compounds because it is, of course, on the edge of that west side. Searchy throws a grenade over, won't land down the hallway, but TST Mortar, meanwhile, they're closing in. Diari is coming up to that second floor before Iraq. They're getting prepared.
And speaking of for Iraq, I think they might need to show how they can play this in the clean way, because Sergi did tell us, though, right, Highland Wolf, that they're trying to play with a different IGL today. And when considered that they had such a good run yesterday, I am not quite sure whether that's a good plan going into tonight. And I mean, we haven't seen them show up in the first 2 games, and this is them actually choking a little bit here in Picardo.
The fact that they've got this far 2-2 split just isn't going to work out for the side of TES team versus for Iraq because they can't bring in NATO and Co to support the two inside the casino. Rabo and Diari, they've already lost Searchy now. And with that two up front, with two more behind, as we mentioned for TES, it's just going to be so hard. The bullets are already now needing to be reloaded. Is it just putting in the pressure? The revive, yes, it can potentially come through, but they just kind of come through the door and flush them out, and that will be the 2 kills picked up. And now for Iraq, NATO and NATOs, they can just watch from the background. There's nothing they can do, as we mentioned.
Oh my god, what are they doing? NATO should be able to trade this. No, they pay. The NATO brothers are supposed to be in position to overlook and punish anyone who's trying to be aggressive upon the teammates. But maybe it's about the loadout that we saw in NATO's with the Winchester in hand, and unless you're such a god, but he's got the M4 as well. So I don't know what they've done there. They could have just traded. The two members, the two teammates could have been the best bait ever, so that they can pull that off. But I mean, I just don't have any words there for Iraq paying for the suboptimal tactical plan there.
This is where it does come into advantage though for them. The zone shifts further towards that northeastern side, and they can now pin inside the blue zone the remaining squad of TES Esports, as Hammer will also fall down, but they have lost one in return, and NATOs will need to bring up that revive because now Diari have that hill to cover with Dida in the top flank cover of the Casino Royale, and now they have this 1 versus 1 remaining. You see, though, NATO's being revived by NATO brothers here, just holding on to the entire squad of TS Esports. And I think also keep in mind to note, though, on a lighter note, the islands are still in play, Tarzan.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But what are they doing, man? Like, I mean, I don't want to be, like, strict, but I'm allowed to be. Like, we want the best teams that we can get in PMCO UK. Like, the region is about to rise, but a play like this makes it really rough to watch. 4 players following the same rotation path, one after the other, getting sprayed down by the same player. The VOD is here. Go study map. I think it's going to be hard for TES Esports to make it into the next stage with that 0 point as well. They will be pretty much stuck in the 24th position. Start preparing for the next split, maybe. And I know I'm a little bit strict there, but you know what? I'm not sorry for that because we just want to see the best from this region.
Yeah, right. There is just several mistakes made by both Iraq and TS team there. And I think what is also needing to keep in mind, though, from other teams here now moving into zone is the likes of Fool here coming up, needing a strong couple of games still to solidify their position. Coming up, though, into the side of Sons of Odin, who are on the bubble, 16th spot. Albert's now only pulling out the building and off the hills and might be pinned down here if they can find the shots, but won't be able to take it. Almost, maybe, as Albert does go down to low health. The building has burned and Albert has been left behind. And a slow rotation from Sons of Odin has just cost them one of their players.
Well, Albert is still in there. The rest of the team needs to not give up on him so easily. Think about where he can get shot from. Try to trade for him and maybe even a quick pickup with the vehicle. But I think Fools want to capitalize on this one. Albert's just buying time for his teammates, but I think they're just nowhere to be found. This might be an easy kill for the sides of Fool as Toxic lands the shot with the AK-47 as they continue to rotate through to the play zone.
Yeah, just again, a couple mistakes made by teams not being aware that, of course, the way this zone is going, it is devilish that these teams will be looking very efficiently to try get a spot inside the zone. You see now already phase 2 going to be coming to a close onto phase 3 in those brief couple of moments. Lacanostra MVP alongside Risk holding along those familiar south of Impala compound areas there, as it does shift over towards now away from where we saw it in yesterday's game, over in the hills, up a bit more north to the more flat, hilly terrain of Junkyard and Impala.
And that is just the type of circle that you need to play Regis, right? You need to assess it straight away, knowing how to split around it. And TSE is entering the area that I want to talk about, and they can just make use of those Regis. And with Impala still kind of in play, I don't think it's the prime spot for these teams, because once you exit from those hard covers, you can be really easy to get sprayed down because people just expect you to be there. And these teams, so many of them, still needing to rotate from the southern side.
And that's all about the question here and the statement for what is happening right now. You see Fools even on top of TES team right now. They've got 2 knocks looking for Dika inside that blue zone. It's still the blue zone has continued to now close in again already on phase number 3, and you see Fools aren't willing to try risk that final knockup, which is a smart decision because Deacon's so far away, but the revives realistically just are only going to come out onto 1 player. They won't be able to revive potentially 2 in time unless Dyer is able to be revived barely with a sliver of health. Fool, though, may make it inside the zone. Coming up behind him, it's KI1.
Oh my god. And you know what? I think Fools could have put a little bit more pressure to stop that revive from coming through, but nonetheless, they've done a really good job of sending 2 to scout further down that eastern road to get entry point and leaving 2 behind to play spoiler. But yeah, of course, they could have gotten those 2, but the damage has been done. And meanwhile, the side of Seraphim, we talked about how Gaijin Seraphim can be one of the top teams, but they have yet to show up further in tonight's games. But they are in a decent spot and just need to see how they play that further. Sons of Odin, another team that needs to show up as they lost Albert, as we saw earlier. Now, finding a spot in that open area, I'd say pretty hard to protect those vehicles, so it could be detrimental to them in that late game.
Yeah, that is also the entire Cyrex ESP squad wiped out by the play zone as well on phase number 3, as Fool have landed their spot inside the zone. But ahead of them, you see LN MVP and also Risk already inside because of the fact that Fool stopped multiple times to try gatekeep teams, which is, yes, the safest decision in terms of not having a team again behind you. But in front of you, the real question lies about how now, if another Northern Shift comes out, how will they survive, especially with Vendetta now coming in? You see the side of their squad entering in, but Buka won't be able to do too much as Kuba here will fall down. Hyder will now also come back up for the support with Toxic now on the front end of Vendetta's firepower. You see Aiden and also the remaining members of Vendetta coming in, but make that double knock, and now Devil's just trying to revive himself through into the blue zone, but won't be so lucky. The 3 come out, and in 20th position already, Vendetta. It might just be curtains for this squad with only 1 game to go.
And it's just shown through in that gameplay. Sometimes you need to control the damage being done. Damage control, yes, is the term, and they could have just maybe played it still and just allocate those resources, but they send one after the other into the area of control in the hands of Fools, and that is just done in this game, out at 12th position.
And look at the aggression of Fools right now, as they now make a dual rotation past the hands of Risk, and Risk, surprisingly to me, does not seem ready for that rotation, that aggression coming out from the duo there. And keep in mind, although they still have 1 further back, they are now making their rotation too. And so with Risk also in cars, Tox is going to be allowed that rotation to come through. And the trio will now have a stronger position despite the fact that Risk entered that zone first.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's so tricky to play the circle because what seems to be easy is blocked by a lot of very hilly parts of Miramar, and then driving through that's so tricky, and a lot of teams don't expect themselves to appear in here until maybe the mid-late game, so that ability to assess it on the spot is really vital here. But look at TSC Legends holding the strong full squad up with 5 team kills already, so they can maybe take away this one. Got a good spot in the circle as well.
Risk also pulling up towards that southeastern end of the zone on to KI1, Hackshot, and Hisoka. They take the 1-1 split for now on the edge. I'm interested, of course, you see Gaijin on your screen there just ahead. They've got a really strong position towards that center of zone, right?
I mean, like, it's so much about how they want to hold it, like with the splits, etc. And bear in mind, some things that may not come through from just watching this is how teams respond to the fights that they hear based off the gun sounds. And I think we want to see more third party happening. In this league, we've seen quite a lot on Erangel the other day, but in Miramar, in parts of the map that they don't know so much about, I want to see more of that, right? Because holding down an area of control may mean that you're somewhat safe, but you may not capitalize on that. And sometimes every point counts. And with this later stage of this group stage as well, they need to wrap that up and look at Hisoka trying to put some work in.
Hisoka jumps through the staircase, and underneath it will be the ground that the Terative will fall into. Alani now comes in with the Uzi though as well, alongside Trojan for dual support. But Hisoka and Hackshot, we've already found a pick. As his zone will shift now once again into the hands of Gaijin Seraphim. And now it's their job, the onus on them, to stop all of these teams outside of zone, unlike them, in now this phase 5. You see Hackshot now takes a couple bullets into the face, but Hisoka also will trade back. Half health for now is the side of Risk. Come under the staircases one again. Another will fall, make it now potentially the third. All of them under the building as they will just be buried into the third game. Fourth game, see you later.
And they have to start scouting forward as well. I mean, they've got some time, 10 seconds to go until the Nick zone closes. But look at the position of Lord already trying to hold down and get information of these teams by his lonesome. But Cyrix is in trouble right now.
You see, Cyrix, they've lost 3 members. The entire squad as Ash will be taken down by 4 Iraq. They needed these kills. They're up to 7. They've still got NATO, so NATO... they seem to be redeeming themselves. They might have heard you in their earpiece right there, Tarzan, about showing up in this game.
Potentially a 2v4 with some third-party assistance, but look at Seraphim, the beautiful split. I'm going to compliment them once again, holding high hill positions, holding good splits, every angle covered, using hard covers from buildings as well. And the relative high ground now held by Kosti and his teammate. Very, very strong control from Seraphim.
But the problem is here, right? They are very split apart in a Dober and Lord 1-1 split. And with still 7 other teams alive, it's going to be particularly difficult for the side of Gaijin Seraphim to hold down so many players from so many different angles. You see Rescue even from the north side alongside TSC Legends and Sons of Odin back at a sole player trying just to hang on as long as they can as Gaijin Lord will be picked off by Bujo, and this is where you maybe see Gaijin start to fall with Rescue also driving into the fray.
But they still got 3 to control the eastern side, and they're trying to take more. The second kill may come through. The NATO brothers are suffering right now. For Iraq needs more points, but they've got no signs of life. And we only got those 6 teams remaining. And Sons of Odin went out as well. Such a heartbreak. They really need those points.
The crucial rotation in the background there, you see Gaijin Seraphim has come to that 2-2 split. The aid onto Lord will come through, but not so much for Tick, as he is on that sliver of health, separated away from his squad, and might just be out of his game to the open, lasering eyes of Chiquita. You see now him revive, you see him maybe throw some more smoke roads out to try revive, but the angle has come through. Chiquita has found him and will beam him down. You see the rest of Rescue inside the zone, though. More can be said for the side of Gaijin. As you see, KI1 now the team to gatekeep them outside of this now phase 5.
And this type of end circle with the teams that are in it actually are less important when it comes to qualification, because a lot of them are up there already. It's about getting those maybe ego points, etc., getting the practice in, and in the likes of TES team as well, probably unlikely to make it through. So this is important for them to just test the waters a bit more of each other's play style. And Gaijin is starting to make that move because they didn't have that position in the circle. Now they've got some relative high ground, ridge lines, you name it, and Lot got picked up as well. So that position will still be held down by Seraphim.
But Seraphim, Gaijin, although they hold this position, you see Rescue here, struggling in that background versus TSC Legends. Order, meanwhile, Lord might just be picked off by Buja once again. He's already got his eyes set ahead for their rotation. Hackshot will go down to TES, and that means the open end of that south side of zone is available for many of these teams, including Gaijin, to now come in to access it. You see Rescue, they've revived themselves back up, but TSC Legends still the 4v3 advantage. They're taking the 2-2 split as Bilal Busho coming round to that angle to try and take them out.
Oh my god. And TSC Bujo, we mentioned about this player, this team that a lot of teams fears, and they didn't have a good day one, but they just keep playing better and better. If they can take this win, I'm quite certain that they can take that top spot away from Sirix Esports, and they are still using this position strong as they continue to frag and rescue force from the pressure from behind as well. This is Rescue suffering in this end circle.
Rescue, they try to make the split over to Gaijin, unsuccessful, as the entire squad is just finished off by the grenades of TSC Legends. But also now the fire and the ammo from TSC lands onto Kosti, as they will now cost their life on their own rotation. Prada will come in for the support, albeit in a sliver of health to save him. Ali, also for TES, still alive. TS team can maybe clinch out a second position, but it's going to be so hard. That shack is the only thing that protects them, and these teams know that he's there.
But look at that circle that the easy access goes over to Seraphim. But if we assess that landscape there, the ridgeline might not be sufficient. TSC, although they have to move, there's a way for them to punish Seraphim if Seraphim didn't time the rotations right. And don't forget about Ali. He can be in position to spoil anyone who is not patient on this rotation.
Ali, yes, he can play spoiler, but as soon as he peeks his head out of that shack, you can bet the TSC Legends or Gaijin on their positions will look to take him out. Look at his zone though, phase 7. Neither of these teams, or all three of these teams, should I say, are inside that zone. So in now this moment that it shrinks, you see TSC Legends making their move into the center, albeit the risky play, as they might just lose one for now. It will be K2 to stride top. He engages Kosti, will fall down first. Chiquita will also find one onto Lord, and a two-piece goes through for TSC. The smokes also now up as well, as Gaijin and Shambles as Adobo, the third we finished off. Kosti's now wiped out the game. Prada the only one alive, and Prada needs to try pull off the 1 versus 4 situation. Chiquita's coming in with the Uzi, trying to take him out, but Prada keeps himself alive for now, not for much longer. Bilal will finish him off, and Alali will come out of his hiding hole for now, but is smacked into the ground he goes, and TSC Legends take home a second chicken dinner in a row.
Oh my god, and with the 14 kills as well, they have for sure taken that top spot. And the big brain rotation from Bujo, using his supreme leadership and Pubg IQ, using the burn vehicles in that middle already as extra metal shields that they could use. They smoked it up, they ran it in, they were trying to trade whoever's trying to peek. That was beautiful from TSC Legends, and they for sure deserve that top spot. Such beautiful play, right? Last game we can say, hey, you've got the zone lock, but look at them there. They didn't have the circle, but they made it work. And my god, that was such a strong game. And for sure, like I said, taking that top spot, man, and the 18-point separation between them and the third seed, TSC is in this, and I think they've gotten themselves a spot. Just one more game to go, man.
For sure, I think TSC Legends, alongside Cerix and KI1 and Gaijin, are all safe above that 110 mark, considering as well that Royal Knights, the 16th position, are only on 71, a good 40-point gap to try keep them through tomorrow's games. But on the other end, though, we have Cyrax ESP. They were able to outlast just long enough to keep themselves now in 13th. Sons of Odin also moved to 14th position. And although it's not a strong position, although they're only minimal points ahead of the 17th mark, they still have a chance. They still have one more game. If either of these squads
Mm.
can take it to the other teams in Erangel, they will potentially, if not inevitably, be safe.
You know what? How strong was TSC Legends? They got 27 points in day one. That means in the two games, we've still got one more game to play, right? They've gotten 109 points so far in those 2 days, and we
Yeah.
are yet to see like the teams making that. Taking that amount of points in 2 days, and that's a bounce back after day one. We have so many teams like Heartshift on the other group that's still yet to play tomorrow. They have the similar amount of points after day one, and look at TSC making it count them, man. But you know what? A little bit heartbreaking for teams like TS Esports, and I mean they're pretty much out. Right, one game. I think I just want to see them enjoy this last game for their run and still
Yeah.
maybe cause some drama in that top and middle parts of the leaderboards. And you know what? There's still more to come.
Yeah, I think it is realistically curtains for these teams in the end of the second half leaderboard. But as you mentioned now, they can still play extreme spoiler to some of these teams on the edge, on the bubble, like you mentioned earlier of Sons of Odin. So I
Hmm.
think now, going into that final game, it is all about how can these teams on the edge really play it patiently, perhaps, and go for these
Hmm.
zones, go for those game points, because even realistically, 15, 12 points will bring them enough of a gap potentially to stay inside that top 16 with a couple kills. Or do they risk it all? Do they go for those heavy 30, 40-point games just to immediately secure them that spot inside top 16? That is what we will have to find out, though, Tarzan, because as we
Hmm.
say, one more game to go, and that will be on Erangel. Do not go anywhere, guys. We're now 3 games out the window, one more to jump into the house as Erangel is on the cards for these teams. One more game for all of these teams, separating them here in a PUBG Mobile Club Open UK Spring Split 2021 between a spot or not in the PMCO UK Finals.
Oh, so crazy. It's so crazy. Some of these teams will literally play their last game in this tournament right here. And it's borderline heartbreaking, but you know what? They need to believe in themselves in making a miracle happen. And we've seen some of these teams, right, with the names and players popping out, and they have made themselves a name in this tournament. And hopefully they can show up once again and show us what they can do. And just waiting for these crazy plays. I mean, particularly for a team like Sons of Odin, who is around that 14, 15 position on the leaderboards. They need to grab more points to secure that spot because we've still got 2 groups of teams playing in tomorrow's games.
Yeah, it's that scary point now for some of these teams on the bubble to really have those standout games. Yes, teams like TSC Legends with their 2 chicken dinners are safe. Not so much can be said on the other hand, though, and especially for teams like for Iraq, who even potentially had a couple of those kills, now moving on to our final map. It's the onus is on them to have those standout games like TSC Legends had on Miramar.
And we will have that playing path actually going over Lipovka to start off with. So look, an Austria MVP are going to like that one, going all the way to North Georgia Pool, I think. And look at me go, and look at these teams go. What can I say?
Man,
just
I don't know, man. There's something about your ability to read these maps, like on the other end of where they're going. It's very impressive.
And you know what? With this playing path as well, I'm just going to call it somewhat center. Of course, it's more favoring the teams that like to drop to that northern part. But it's not the end of the world because we don't see that much interest going to that military base island. But you know what? The game may say otherwise. The gods of PUBG may say, let's bring them a south circle. And we're still waiting for that to appear. And you know what? Back to Yasnaya is the game plan for the Smokers. And alongside them is another top team. Syrinx is trying their luck, and they might want to hold that early aggression. They should know, right? Smokers gone there again and again. And speaking of again and again, it's North Georgia Pool action, baby.
It is North Georgia Pool action, even again and again for Lack Nostra MVP and TSC Legends. And I think now, especially going into the finals after this game, is teams will be looking at these locations, right? And looking at potentially hot drops. They should see Syrinx going over to Smokers and Yasnaya to eliminate certain teams early on. Inside though Sanhok, we do have, of course, TES Esports up against now the side of Vendetta UK. Vendetta, they did not have the game that they needed in that previous match. Potentially, though, can still play spoiler. Maybe can still get in on the bubble, but they would need the most amazing game, as we say, in this final match.
And speaking of that Phase 1 circle as well, it's going to be on top of the Eastern Bridge. And I am just on fire right now, or you can just see it another way as I've jinxed them. They didn't want to play that, but the gods of PUBG has a different plan. Vendetta here just, need to show what they can do, at least make some clutch plays to leave their name in the history of the PUBG esports history book. And they will still need to retreat away from this, and the early vehicle spawns might matter a lot in this type of skirmishes. Small rotations will give them a little bit of an edge from off angle, maybe.
And they are in 17th position with 67 points here. Royal Knights playing tomorrow in 16th, still on that bubble mark would be my loot above them. And I think this is now the time. They have the chance, as we mentioned, but right now they're not inside the safety of that top 16. As I say, though, if they have 20-point game, 30-point game realistically is what they're looking for, starting off by obliterating through to TES Esports, that could be them clinching one of these 16 final positions.
You know what? Like Cyrex, ESP, and Sons of Odin are in 13th and 14th position, respectively. But they're trying to hurt each other right now. They clash in North Georgia Pool, and Sons of Odin already lost one player. So that is detrimental news for them. And with that position there, with regard to the circle, a lot of those teams around Georgia Pool will want to go for a wide rotation, maybe going through that western bridge and enter the southern island. So you will end up on that southern half of that phase one circle, can give them some good chance. You know what? Like untouched military base can get you a lot of resources, and they can have a different plan going into that late game. Meanwhile, Natos, we've seen what they can do as a duo, some frags on top of Syrinx just now, and they are just trying to control this a little bit more on this Rozhok hill, trying to third party this Rozhok standoff right now.
There is only 19 points separating here, Tarzan. Does 11th place team to the 22nd place team, which is for Iraq here. Ooh. On your screens over that for that Rozhok area. And I think looking over the particularly one of these teams they need to bypass through, that leaderboard is so close, and that is one game. This is this final game it comes down to for so many of these teams. They can still take a spot because of how close these leaderboards still are on that final 16 spots. But it will be difficult. They still got to find a strong position to gatekeep Vendetta over this hill, and not only Vendetta, but also TS Esports, as we mentioned. And I think you mentioned also, of course, side of Sons of Odin in 14th position as well. They are still on that bubble, and with only potentially now 3 members alive, it is going to make it such a difficult time for them.
You just need to be really decisive in these situations. I mean, Smokers, meanwhile, takes out Lucy, and that clutch player will not be in this last game of group stage for them. And so that's still going to be very, very interesting. I think these teams in Rozhok, Island Wolf, I want to see them make a very decisive move. Really textbook cover fire to maybe get a different way to rotate out of this, because it's hurting all of them right now.
And hurting will be Smokers on to the side of Syrinx. And I'm glad the Smokers go back to their Yasnaya comfort pick here over Syrinx, because they really do need that comfort pick. Yes, they're in 7th position, but with how close this leaderboard is, they're still going to need a strong showing if teams tomorrow have a very even series of games and they all start picking up points that could push Smokers out if they fall down early. But the side of Syrinx, as we mentioned, they did lose Lucy first on, but not before it will be Syrinx to take the return knock onto Ace. And now you see Rex moving in across the building, trying to get that third-party peek over Ash's. Hunt on the other side looks over one shot.
It's really hard to play Yasna. It's such a huge city, and they need to know their options. Sometimes fighting is not the only one, especially for both of these teams. I mean, they've got some picks and some points, but no signs of like the double not come through. Syrinx may just need to go to bed early tonight.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't actually turn around, Ash, to see if there was a player around the edge of that house. A little bit of a mistake there, but Hunt now coming upstairs into the hands of One Shot, but he's got the angle on the balcony. He's looking to try and make that shot happen onto Hunt. He's just playing it patient as Hunt teeters around the edge of that staircase, buying time for the rest of Smoker's team here behind him. He best look towards his back, because they're going to come through that door, a charging and a flaming with their bullets. As you see Blaze also now fall for the side of Syrinx. Hunt will be the final member. One Shot just smacks him into the ground, and it will be them out in last position.
It's just so hard to think what's good, like for the teams that want to still get into the finals. When these point sponge situations still is there, we will get more and more teams heading over and past that 100 point mark. And so that is just going to be a little bit of a difficult math. It's no longer quick maths. The Highland was not easy. Meanwhile, also very hard to figure out is how to hold this compound by the side of Vendetta. 3 at the bottom floor for TES Esports as they feel the wrath at the second one. Third one goes down. Actually, Devil trying to make it work for Vendetta, and they made it work.
Vendetta, they show up strong. They're in that 17th spot, and they want a shot at the PMCO UK finals. They've wiped out TES esports that we talked to them about needing to do, but 4Iraq are going to be a trickier opponent here. On the hill, they control the splits from Aiden. Alongside that, blue zone going to be crunching them into the positions and into the line of fire for Iraq as that phase one tickles their health bars down.
And we talk about kill feed awareness, right? Like how so important to figure out numbers advantage, etc. But if I were the side of Sons of Odin here, we know that they've only got 7 points ahead of Vendetta, and Vendetta getting 4 kill points so early on, it might be a little bit of a shaky sensation coming through their bodies. And now they've got a decent spot over that eastern bridge, but it's going to go so much more congested as that main type part of the circle going over to military base. And Sons of Odin, if they can get past and maybe capitalize on that position on the other side of the bridge, this can be the saving race for them in this tournament.
You see, though, it is still a 60, well, typically 70-30 split here for the side of this zone. And that still means that Farm and Milsa are still in play. And I expect you should see Risk there on that northern side, on the cliff side, going to be holding on to that position as long as possible. But going to the south island are Cyrax ESP going into the hands now of Sons of Odin, who need to start picking up these kills, particularly the fact that they've already lost Shoxy out of this game. It's going to be much trickier to hold with only 3 members, one of these core bridges going down into the zone. As you see them also make their retreat, looking to try reposition and stop Cyrax from potentially gatekeeping them moments on.
And I think it will also come down to the next shift, of course, but if it goes to military base, right, these teams can be really decisive and start scouting and grab some untouched loot there, and that is some resources that can really change the pace of the game going into the later phases. And just look at the amount of loot that Sons of Odin have: damaged level 1 gear, just 1 first aid or a few bandages. That is going to be really, really rough. That means they can only make 1 or 2 small mistakes before they get punished further. Meanwhile, on that western bridge, we've got a clash between Fools Esport and TES team.
TS team have lost 1 note on their rotation, not quick enough compared to the likes of Toxic. You see they are on the bridge, just watches his teammate go into a puff of pink smoke as he will wait, snaked down, awaiting the arms of Fool as they come in over that bridge sign. It is risky position though for DR, because yes, it can pay off in dividends, but it could also backfire just as easily. You see here the secondary support from DR now coming in, and that will be crucial. As also on the other side, you see Risk on that cliff side, losing members, losing players, and Alani now being forced to cross that bridge as well.
And Alani can just sandwich the side of Fools Esports here, but Fools has shown a lot of promise in this more fighting mechanics, and they are just trying to eliminate the side of TES. It can be a little bit of stalemate, but those resources will get burned down as the side of Dina using his last bandage. They're not going to be easy for them.
Yeah, Trojan for Risk has been knocked down. Alani's forced now into the vehicle, but will just be popped. Has to jump back out, has to heal back inside that phase 2 zone. And Hyder will be the one to play spoiler, with also Gaijin and Seraphim jumping in. But phase 3, now going to take a shift over towards that south island, over to the east side. And these congestions, 4 teams on that western bridge, will be where the action takes place, alongside Smokers versus KI1 on the east.
And I mean, like, Sons of Odin's position seems like it's really, really good, right? Like, around the junction with a great position off center, but do bear in mind that compound doesn't have much elevation, and you may just get pinned from the high grounds from surrounding. And do you factor in the amount of loot that they have is pretty low? I think they really need to know the trigger discipline, when to strike and how to delegate those looking out for angles, right? And meanwhile, this standoff is still happening. But for how long, though, is the question. 10 more seconds before the circle closes. These teams are 800 meters from the next circle.
It is Risk and Fool that are going to feel that Papa Blue first, close in with his comforting arms and take them out of the game. Is Risk Alani trying to outswim the zone? Is Ali spraying into water but can't find that final shot? Rescue will wipe out Vendetta on the north side as KI1 find a start pick onto Smokers on the other bridge. But on this bridge, it'll be Charlie losing his life first as DR and DR will stop the rotation happening from the side of Fool for now, but it will be DR being knocked. And DR now will going to be the only one to stop Toxic, making their rotation as well into zone. They know where they are, jumps over, going to be finishing that kill off. And with the other one already down, it is now TES team on the back through alley, rotating away from Papa Blue and inside to the safety of the play area.
It was good play from Fools, sending one to bait some shots and peek. But for how long though? Seraphim is trying to come in to do this, but they are in shambles right now. They try to punish them, but you know what? They also are suffering. 3 kills right now, but Lord, close enough to get picked up, and that is just not easy. The blue is being so brutal right now. Fools need to grab this chance as Seraphim grab those revives to rotate in, and that will just add more pressure to the side of Seraphim, and this western side can be really tricky.
I think it is about these teams going to be congesting along that west, but not so much as on the east side, though. Sons of Odin still going to be holding strong against many of these teams. And I think, as you mentioned, right, the backside rotation of Lack and Ostra MVP, maybe rotating onto the hills behind them and cutting them off. As we talk so many times, Lack and Ostra MVP are a team, as you see them just doing so, moving over to the center of the zone, but they're going to have to move back up north because the zone takes a shift over in favor of Sons of Odin, KI1 and TSC, alongside Xanax, making their position known on the edge.
And like Nostra MVP just made it work, man. They went through that cross through the waters, went into Novo, grabbed more loot, but still able to grab those cars in the untouched Novo. And they still have that resource coming into later game. Now got the high ground, can scout everywhere before they make the next rotation. So although it's on edge, they can really use that to their advantage. Meanwhile, KI1 coming into this junction alongside Sons of Odin could be a little bit of a standoff, and like an Austria MVP can maybe farm this from the high ground as well.
It is going to be up to Sons of Odin with 0 kills still, 1 player down. It's not where they wanted to look. Yes, they were positioned for teams to come over, but no teams have fallen into their hands and fallen into their kill feed. So it now is up to them to try keep away KI1. His TSC Legends will do just that against Full Iraq on the other side to the northwest. Like an Austria MVP also making their rotation now towards the center of zone, centralizing up against the side of Sorax.
And if we look at that hill, that is also very strong in the circle in the center, is to the northwestern side of the position of Sons of Odin now, and that is actually untouched, so teams can actually come in and hold that strong spot. Meanwhile, the other strong one is held by like an Austria MVP, using the high ground, scouted, found it open, and now trying to exert the dominance on this side. Yet to get a kill though, but you know what? It should come in that later phase.
Yeah, I don't think the pressure is so much on LMMVP here, more so on Fools down on the edge of that hillside, needing to take these 4 kills, put them into their pockets, but it is that disadvantage in all the 1-1-1 split, trying to exert as much area pressure as possible, and Toxic needs to be careful he doesn't come over that ridge line too much, because LMMVP, we just know how easily they would just snipe out a player coming over a ridgeline.
And the next circle is just going to dictate that so much. Yet to see more teams around. And I mean, Cyrex ESP has a decent spot as well. They just need to know the limits of that position with a little bit of hill, with a little bit of a center spot, with 360, a potential 360 information. They will need to hold that down well. So I think we will still be waiting for that zone. And that can tell us so much more as to how to predict the later phase of this last game for many of these teams.
Yep, phase 5, the fastest phase of the game. Gonna come up, but turns the back LNMVP for a moment. Fools will pick up number 6. And now Alicio Senso maybe know the location of Toxic. The grenade's gonna come over, but it will go short as Toxic backs off away. Danny on the other tree line, going to be sneaked up, try find that surprise angle onto Fools coming over that ridge line. But they've equalized it to a 3v3 situation. It was that zone will now take another shift with Rescue coming over the bridge into the angles of the fray too.
Oh my god, this is so hard to watch. Look at that shift going to the western side. And these teams just need to get into the vehicles as soon as possible. Start thinking, IGLs. What is the best ridge? Which one is the OP rock? Where is that dip that they need to maybe make the magic happen? And Papa Blue has no mercy. 27 seconds to go before they have to move. Nostra MVP and Force will be blessed though. Not too far that they have to move before getting in. Seraphim, though, another story for them. And but I mean, they are still decent on that leaderboard. But I'm worried for a team like Sons of Odin that still need to show up.
Yeah, they've been quiet all game. Now comes the question of can they outlive the remaining other 7 teams to take home those points and potentially a chicken dinner. Yes, they've taken home a chicken dinner before, but might not be said the same for KI1 as Danoka will get sniped by Danny. You see Koha as well, knowing to be aware of the fact that LN MVP are here, staying under that ridge line and stopping the shots from coming through. Meanwhile, Senso got knocked in the backside as well by Fools. KI1, though, they've come in the middle of Cyrax and LN MVP. Hisoka, hack shot, splitting the 2-1 with Kamoha on the back.
This congestion here, I mean, KI1 just need to know how to use the absolute limits to those covers and start thinking and planning for the next rotation, because when it's so predictable with all the teams looking at how you rotate, is they just put you in a sticky situation with LN MVP trying for this. They know Fools are there and they just cruise through with the disrespect, not getting punished though. Fools was tripping a little bit maybe.
Yeah, I think it is a surprise position and a surprise way to rotate actually behind alongside the edge of zone. Fools weren't ready for. And they actually don't. Oh, maybe pick up Danny, but no, they won't. Danny barely lives away with a sliver of health, and Charlie will fall down instead. But that zone is now closing in towards the edge. And LN MVP, they need to still be hasty. No. They still need to be quick on their rotation. Is now Fools left on the edge with KI1, with Cyrax, with the rest of these teams coming in for the North. Rescue will get chewed by the play zone for their late rotation as well.
And we also saw on kill feed, one of the Sons of Odin's players have been taken away. That's Albert gone, so they're down to a duo. Look at the immense control and spread from TSC Legends, continuing to terrorize these teams. And they will also get the circle on that edge, pushing multiple teams away. Sons of Odin need to rotate even further. This is so hard for them.
Yeah, you talk about that aggression, and you see it going from TSC Legends into the bodies of side of Fools. But KI1 are now on the edge alongside Cyrax, being that aggressive team, however, entering into Bilal's range alongside the rest of TSC Legends. The Molotov goes through the smoke. The smoke has been used to block vision. They are aware of the fact there's teams behind them, but Cyrax will find a 1-for-1 trade as Bujo goes down, equalizing with 1 for Cyrax for now. Bilal is on the front. The rebuy is going to come through from TSC Legends. Phantom wants to try halt it for now. Also searching around for Sons of Odin. Gaijin from behind as the grenade from Bilal goes into the smoke, but will fall short for now. Cyrax making that.
They're on the move now.
That is Baka. Come in. Baka also rotating in for Sons of Odin. You see him coming in, and now that will be the side of Sons of Odin. Last hope smashed by K2, crushed into the ground as Cyrex onto Bujo fights hard, but Hazard on the other side is in the middle of Fools on the other end. And Bilal now coming up to the top, doesn't get the peak, and Hype will find a return knock. 2 full for TSC. Hazard's now coming in, the Cyrex damage is here. 3 now fall. TSC Legends try to do their best with K2 finding 1-on-1, but a revive is brave here as Venom comes around with the Uzi, looking to try find his final kill. Yes, he potentially will. Yes, with the help of Hazard, he will be able to. It will be TSC Legends out of the game.
Oh my god, with that, Cyrix has definitely surpassed Sons of Odin, so that mid-table is going to look so tricky. Meanwhile, KI1 is getting a decent game. Maybe I saw them maybe having some missteps through the night, not just tonight, but the second day of play for them as well. And they've got some spots still, Hackshots still need to clutch, but Fools are slowly getting up to that 100-point mark, and this can be anyone's game.
It could be anyone's game indeed. You see those Fools on that south side, hoping that phase 7 will shift to them. Meanwhile, Nostra MVP with their weird and interesting rotation, albeit surprising Fools, do take up a shack in their possession on that northwestern side. Cyrax with their 9 kills, the most kills out of these teams still remaining, looking to try and make that mega point win. Hackshot falls down as Waji will find one. Charlie almost gets blown up, but won't find a flush for now.
And Cyrax has the entrance to the circle as well. With a little bit of high ground, hopefully the ridgeline is enough. If they take this win, that would be their first ever chicken dinner here. And this is what we talk about, guys. Showing up when it matters. They actually have a solid chance to stay in that mid-table or even go further into the finals, but that circle is going to close in 8 seconds. It's about the timing of these rotations. Like Nostra MVP has to push out the rest of the teams as well, need to make the plan. The smoke field has been deployed by Cyrex. ESP, 9 kills, 3 players, momentum, yes, it's there, and now it's about the making top 3, but some knocks have been coming through.
You see one not going through, the spray from Danny will find a second, and now Hazard might just be in the same fate too, as Fools, Charlie rotates in from behind, Wachi on the other side of the road, looking to try find a separate split for them themselves, hoping that LN MVP will take it to Cyrax, be punished enough, and clean up the chicken dinner from there. But Danny goes back into Snake behind, the smoke won't be caught by Wachi, and that's crucial for LN MVP in her rotations.
Still using that cover might be in favor of Fools, and Charlie has a good spot to maybe spoil this. We've seen what he can do in this late circle. That's just going to be so crucial for them as the nades run in. Not coming through as well.
Hazard has been found. Hazard has been knocked. Venom will also fall, as it will be Senso to finish the flush onto Cyrax. They will not take a chicken dinner here in the group stage. They will be denied it by LN MVP. Now, Fool come in, but Charlie's almost dead already. Yes, he will be knocked, and Senso, with Danny's help, are trying to flush onto Waji. LN MVP looking to try take another one as Waji hides behind the airdrop crate. All the protection he's going to get is Danny will drop for now. Finds one, maybe finds second. Can he find the third? Alicia with a 1 versus 1. Waji throwing the grenade onto the tree line. Maybe comes out with a Molotov onto Waji. Now he's burning. He's burning alive, and Waji will go down to Alicio, who will take, for the side of LN MVP, another chicken dinner on the board.
Well, like a Nostra MVP made it work in the end. The last game for their PMCO UK group stage, and they took that chicken dinner, and that is some much needed momentum as they prepare themselves for the next stage. I think they are in the clear here, but do bear in mind, Fools having a very decent game, 9 kills and a second place. That's 21 points to add on top, and they have officially broken not just 100 points, but they will be at 112 points. That is a very, very solid amount of points. Then that is just destroying more hopes for the teams that want to get through to the finals.
Yeah, the crushing hope of Sons of Odin right now. Only 6 points here, 5, 6 points away from being eliminated. Not the showing that they needed in that final game. They were aggressive, right? They were looking in an aggressive position on that bridge, but they just couldn't find any kills. In moving late into that zone, because they were so hungry for those kills, I think that is what cost them. They didn't have a clear position. You saw in the rotation the final member being caught out by Sarax, albeit Sarax another fight of their own. And I think now looking on the other side of the leaderboard, though, it is these teams, as you mentioned, that have over 100 points that you can expect to see going into PMCO UK finals, with even Sarax ESP holding up strong with that final game, 96 points, potentially now through too.
My God, from 77 to 96. Speaking of showing up when it counts, Cyrus ESP has a chance, but I think we should probably still set that line around 100 points, right? So them alongside a team like Sons of Odin really have to like pray to the gods of PUBG, but I mean, it's going to be really hard. It comes down to all these teams. The top seven out of the top 8 teams for tonight before it started have been playing tonight, right? So it's all about the teams and the points going to the teams at the bottom table. So that is just a devastating news for those teams hanging around the 12th position, I would say. So, I mean, but some of these teams have already officially finished their run for this split. And thank you so much for all their efforts. I mean, it's been a good run, and hopefully they can at least go back and say we've had some great experience and learning, and hopefully we can see them again soon, coming back stronger.
Yeah, unfortunately, the sad heartbreak for teams like for Iraq, for, of course, the side of Vendetta UK as well, who are in that 17th position, will not advance to the PMCO UK finals alongside so many there. Of course, you see TS Esports then in 29th position, just was unable to score enough points to get inside, even risk there in 23rd. But I think on a lighter note, on a more lighthearted note, there is hope now for many of these teams, as you mentioned, right, on the bottom of that leaderboard to make their way, to make their stand in Groups B and C tomorrow, to really hold up strong. And I think, of course, it is just the nature, of course, of PMC UK Spring Split 2021 and being so tough. Of course, thank you to our sponsor again by Xiaomi, Innovation for Everyone, for making all the action happen. And of course, Groups B, C tomorrow, only going to be another 4 matches left before we get on to the finals. So make sure you don't go anywhere. Same time tomorrow on the Sunday evening. Grab your popcorn, grab your drinks, because it's going to be a whopper. See you then.